Who knows?
Well, knock yourself out.
All right, the time is now 6:34, dated Wednesday, March 25th, 2026. We will take a roll call to start the meeting. Jim Franklin is here. Megan?
Here.
Kalina?
Here.
Dot?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Here.
And Brian Payne is absent. Please note that we're doing a hybrid meeting with in-person and virtual attendance. If a member of the virtual public would like to make comments during the public hearing, please use the raise the hand function on Zoom, and you will be assigned a speaking time. If you are listening in via telephone dial-in, press *9 to raise your hand, and then press *6 to unmute yourself. This meeting is being recorded by the local scene, and a record of this meeting will be posted on the local scene website as soon as they're able. Anyone intending to make an audio or video recording of this meeting should notify the chair at this time. Hearing none. We have an announcement. The Kingston Conservation Commission is seeking a new member. Commissioners are responsible for protecting the town's natural resources, including through enforcement of state and local wetland protection laws. Those interested should reach out to the Conservation Department by calling 781-585-0537 or emailing Matt Pinella at mpenella@kingstonmass.gov. Signing documents. Matt, we had a couple of things that need to be signed. Can you walk us through?
Yeah, we had a Horsley Witten Group invoice for the peer review of 20 Marion Drive and Mass Association of Conservation Commissioners for fundamentals courses.
Okay, any questions? All right, we'll move on to action items. We'll now open a discussion on Conservation Commission approval of the purchase of 83 Wapping Road as conservation land. Matt?
Yes, I think I've briefed the commission on this before, and this was one of our CPC articles for the purchase of Roger Carrera's last parcel at 83 Wapping Road. It does contain our 10-foot access easement to Hathaway Preserve, so it is something that has strategic value for wanting to get the parking for Hathaway Preserve to be visible from Wapping Road and also more accessible. Right now you need to have pretty high ground clearance, go down a 2-track road through the woods to get out to the power lines, and a lot of people can't do that. So I think it's a way to get that property to be used by more of the public. It's a really good property. And it itself is just shy of 4 acres, has a mix of intact pine oak woodlands, an area just under an acre of like a transitional shrub habitat, and then the rest of it is agricultural cranberry bog with its, roads and other just kind of grass areas around it. I have a real estate offer that was in the commission's packets for review. I had town council review it. He made changes to it. I believe what I had shown you was a red line. We have the non-red line accepted version today for signature if the commission wants to go forward with pursuing the sale. It would still need, it still has several moving parts. Obviously, it needs town meeting approval from the CPC article. It does not need town meeting approval beyond the CPC article. Council confirmed that that is good enough to satisfy the town meeting requirement, but also funding. We will need more funding for it, and we're actively working on that. So, any questions or specifics that the commission wants to know?
Open it up for discussion. All right. Doesn't seem like there's any questions. Matt, what do you need from us?
A vote in support of the purchase, and then you can sign the, as far as how you'd want to sign the offer sheet, you could, the vote could contain the authority for the chair to sign on behalf of the commission is probably the cleanest way to do that instead of everybody signing it. So.
Okay, perhaps do I hear a motion to, I guess, 2 parts. 1, to move forward with the purchase and sales agreement, and 2, to have the chair sign on behalf of the commission or not. It's up to you.
I'll make that motion.
With
Approving the agents, you signing on.
And not technically a purchase and sales agreement yet.
No.
That would be step 2.
So what is it?
This is essentially an offer sheet. This is a offer to purchase real estate.
Okay,
So it would be in favor of the offer sheet and then your signature.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion to sign as a commission the offer sheet and for the chairperson to sign on behalf of the group. We have a second by Megan to, we'll take a roll call. Kalina?
Aye.
Marilyn?
Aye.
Dot?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Jim's an aye, so that passes unanimously. All right, do you have that to
Do you
sign
have the sheet
today?
passed down?
Sorry, I have extra signature lines. Do you want me to remove them?
Do we want to just sign this at another time, whenever?
You can sign it, it's fine.
Where am I signing?
Buyer.
Here?
Yeah. Nice, got.
Just one page?
Yep.
All right, moving on, I will now open a discussion on the Kingston Conservation Commission joining the Community Biodiversity Institute as an official partner. Matt, can you walk us through?
Yeah, sorry, typo on that, it's initiative. Community Biodiversity Initiative is something that was put together, started by the Barnstable Land Trust. And it's something that we've been working, or I've been working with sort of from the start, giving them guidance on their mission. So they had I think a lot of you know what priority habitat is, and you all know the vernal pool certification process. You've seen in Kingston that priority habitat has disappeared. The state reworks those maps every 3 years, and they don't create any new priority habitat in aggregate. It stays, from my understanding, at the same amount, and it gets kind of shifted around. Whether or not that's 100% accurate or not, the way they go about their records is that, priority habitat is based on observations time out after 25 years. So we've had situations in Kingston where a lot of priority habitat was taken away because observations, likely of box turtles, aged out. And the state does not go out and inspect these areas for new, observations. So it's really up to the public. And in some cases, private landowners, if it's, somebody's private land, they're not necessarily going to go out and record these things on their own. So this group had the idea of training volunteers to go out and solve two issues. One is there's a big difference between the number of potential vernal pools out there in terms of the actual GIS layer and the number of certified vernal pools. So in a lot of towns, there had not been a lot of effort put into trying to certify a lot of these. So they want to get people trained up to go certify vernal pools and look for rare species. And I provided guidance from day one just to try to guide towards, staying in line with natural heritage best practices and species safety and things like that. And they've come out with a really good program there. And we had never signed on as an official partner. So he asked if I could sign on or if we needed commission approval, and I said, at a minimum, a way to tell the commission about the program and sort of what we're doing with them. So they're trying to get towns involved and groups involved in getting volunteers to go out and do these, and essentially sign on to say that you're going to do at least 3 a year. You're going to try to get 3 vernal pools or 3 rare species records, which is pretty easy lift for us. So we have a whole partner pledge here with organization, title, signature, and all of that. So I think if there's no conversation on it, it would just be a motion in support of, becoming a partner of the Community Biodiversity Initiative and giving the chair the authority to sign.
Oh,
But just a
discussion?
question, sure. No dues, no other expectations other than?
Nope.
that?
No, I mean, I'm going to keep working with them in an advisory capacity as is, and on a volunteer basis, this will be something that will fall a lot probably on Georgiana in terms of already running the volunteer stewardship program. It will just be sort of a wing of that, looking for people who have the wherewithal and the drive to go out and do this sort of work. And at a minimum, we have interns every year, and
Right.
you know, it's good to get them out and do that kind of stuff too. So
And again, Megan, we have open space, possibly participating.
sure, yeah.
Any other discussion? Perhaps we hear a motion?
So I will move that we approve our joining as an official partner to the Community Biodiversity Initiative, you said?
It's
No,
Initiative.
Initiative,
corrected
right.
to initiative. And that we will confirm that by having the chairman sign on our behalf.
All right, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
We have a second by Dot. We'll do all in favor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, passes 5-0. Here?
Yep. Yeah, we can pull it first.
All right, let's just finish up. I will now open a discussion on whether the Conservation Commission should allow deposition of dredge sediment from Forge Pond on conservation-owned property on Silver Lake. Matt?
This was discussed during the Forge Pond Fish Passage NOI filing, but I thought it'd be more appropriate for the commission's portion of this, for whether they approve of this or not, to be put as a separate action item. So during that hearing, you know, we heard from the engineer and also from Jones River Watershed Association that they did not expect, that they had sort of changed the plan, and the plan was to try to avoid putting any sediment onto that parcel, and that everything was going to be attempted to be put on the south side of, or the southwest side of Forge Pond. But I think it would still be good to vote on whether or not the commission would approve that in case it becomes necessary during the work. You know, and it doesn't have to be something the commission votes on tonight. You can have questions, I can try to answer them, or you can have questions that I then pass off to them and we continue this down the road. But I don't see a problem with it, and you know, maybe I haven't seen a sense of scale to it or something. I don't see a situation where this could be detrimental to the property from an ecological standpoint. I think everything that is placed there will be used in some capacity by species, and likely create some form of vegetative diversity where the stuff is placed. I think if it was a huge amount, that it's, you know, a giant mound, then that might be a different concern, but I don't think that's the case given what I've seen of the cross sections and where they're going to be dredging. It's not a huge amount of material that they're moving.
Okay, and you're not concerned about the composition of the material? I think somebody brought that up.
No, there was testing done, and the only area that had initially shown contamination was right up against the dam. And that area was, the intent at the time was to be dredged and trucked off-site.
Yeah.
But since then, there's been some sort of follow-up testing that
That
does
it's
does not meet the level of contamination where it would need to be moved. So the material that would be placed onto that site, from what I can tell from a logistical standpoint, would be the stuff that's closer to Silver Lake. You know, anything that's down near Forge Pond, it's too far away from that property. Basically, the way it works, you have somebody's holding a tube in the water, and then there's a big tube coming off the floating dredge going to the shore. So you're not going to have that much hose to be able to do it from down near the dam where there could be any contamination. I think, you know, upstream, there's not likely to be anything at all, and there was nothing that showed up in the testing.
Okay, thank you.
Any discussion? All right. How do you guys want to deal with this? So, Is there any questions that we want to ask? Do we want to put some stipulations that it's subject to his oversight? And approval on site, just so that we have some kind
A
of,
monitor or something.
I think that would be a good idea
Yeah.
to say that, you know, with the approval of the conservation agent, you know, on site. You know, something that gives me the approval to shut it down. If I go there and go like, oh my God, this is not what this is supposed to be, you need to stop.
right,
then-
if the volume gets larger than what we anticipate, right?
Yeah.
Are we ready to vote on this tonight, or is this something that we just want to wrap up with the
Anybody?
NOI when it comes? How do you want to handle it?
Okay.
Okay, I think we can.
Tonight?
Move on it. Yep.
Move it tonight?
Mhm.
Okay. Perhaps, do we have a motion?
Sure. I'll move that we will allow deposition of dredged sediment from Forge Pond on conservation-owned property on Silver Lake with the approval of the conservation agent on site.
Is that restrictive enough?
Does that cover it?
With oversight, maybe add the word oversight in there, oversight and approval, on-site approval.
Yeah, I monitor, oversight, whatever word.
Yeah,
You
I think
What-
that covers it.
Okay.
All right, so we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Megan. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, pass that 5-0. Thank you.
Welcome.
You didn't authorize the chair, so you can either do that, or I can pass it down, and you can all sign it. Either way.
Where are we signing? Everywhere? Right here?
Print and,
Why not?
oh yeah, on the bottom, yes. Print here, sign down the bottom.
Does somebody want to,
Do you want another
Authorize
motion
me.
that we authorize you to sign? Okay.
It's
I move
fixed.
that we authorize the chairperson to sign on our behalf.
all right, we have a motion, second?
Second.
Second by Dot. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. All right, we will move on to public hearing, Section A, Forge Pond Fish Passage, Old Lake Street, notice of intent. I will now, I will now continue a hearing for the notice of intent for the proposed construction of a permanent fishway at the Forge Pond Dam under Old Lake Street with associated dredging to restore the channel and improve diadromous fish passage. The applicant has requested continuance to May 13th. Do I hear a motion?
Make that motion.
All right, Megan,
Second.
by Marilyn. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, 5-0. To continue to May 13th. Section B, 20 Marion Drive, AKA 1 Royson Drive, map 75, lot 31-1, request for amendment to orders of conditions. I will now continue a hearing for the request for amendment for the proposed installation of a sediment forebay and rain garden within the 200-foot riverfront area of Smelt Brook at 1 Royson Drive, formerly 20 Marion Drive. The applicant has requested continuance to April 22nd. Do I hear a motion?
I'll move that we continue to April 22nd, but I think we need to, well, I'll make the motion, and then I have a comment after we get a second.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we hear a second?
Second.
Second. Now open for discussion.
So I think we need to double-check attendance for that night, because I know a couple of us will probably not be present due to school vacation and other commitments.
Okay. So we have one meeting between,
So on this one, and this was partially at my request too, given that we've had some coordination with council to do on this one. But counsel for the applicant said that he's not available on April 8th, so he suggested April 22nd. So I would suggest that if the commission feels they may have an issue with availability on that night, you're welcome to continue to the next meeting, which would be that May 13th. And if
We have
they're
space.
not able to do that, we could continue from that meeting to the next if they needed.
May 13th might be the more appropriate.
Wiser.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I would say for those purposes, if we want the 15th, we have to vote no on this, and then we can make
Vote
it
again.
move, or you could make a friendly amendment,
I would make a friendly amendment in the interest of time
okay?
to continue it to May 13th, Matt, you said?
Yes.
Okay, so we have an amendment. The second was Megan.
I'll second.
All right, and you'll accept that. So we'll take a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. All right, that carries 5-0 for May 15th.
13th.
May 13th.
13th.
That's what I said, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
April 13th.
No, May 13th.
No, May 13th.
Sorry, May 13th, yes.
Okay. Let's see, Section C. 58 Shore Drive, map 39, lot 5, notice of intent. We'll now open a hearing for the notice of intent for the proposed construction of 2 permeable paver patios, 1 impervious stepping stone path, and 1 retaining wall within the 100-foot buffer zone to the top of a coastal bank and other coastal resource areas at 58 Shore Drive. This applicant has requested a continuance to April 8th. Do I hear a motion?
I move that we continue this to April 8th.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Megan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. That carries 5-0. Continued to April 8th. All right, so we will step back and, oops, sorry. Yep, we'll step back to enforcement. Matt, 51 Main Street, which was continued from an earlier date. Can you update us?
Yes, I recommended continuance for 51 Main Street. We did a site visit, I think it was 2 days ago, and viewed the site, and I told the applicant that I was going to request continuance to have time to put together a solid staff report for the commission. In the meantime, they said they were going to be reaching out to wetland scientists now that everything is all melted. So I believe I put the following meeting, I think I put April 8th on for suggested continuance on this one.
So you don't need anything from us on this. This is just an update, correct?
Correct.
Do we have any questions from that? All right. How about 53R Main Street?
This is the one where their counsel contended that statute of limitations had passed, and I needed to confer with our counsel on that, and I am still in the middle of that process. So I let them know that I was recommending continuance to April 8th, but because it's the same counsel as Marion Drive, he said that he's not available and suggested April 22nd. It is up to the commission how they want to handle that, given the last one was pushed to May 13th. Do we want to attempt to consolidate for him to
I was
not
going to
have
say
to
it
come
would
to every
accommodate
meeting,
his
or?
attendance.
Aren't these kind of together anyways? So should they both be moved?
Yes and no. I was questioning that, if like one is moved, should the other be on the same date, but really they are separate properties.
Yeah.
You know, they came to my attention the same way, and that's sort of how I told them I was gonna handle it, was I see issues on both property, I'm sending both notices of violation. But I think the right way to handle it from a procedural standpoint is that the way that we've done it tonight is just have each one separate. So if they got separated on the different nights, I don't think there's an issue there. At least that way we get one thing
Done.
moving
Settled.
along, I guess, yeah.
Let's open that up for discussion. My feeling on that is that what is said at one may be beneficial to the other. So I think that because they're continuous, that my personal preference would be to keep them together, but I don't know what the, everybody else thinks is the best path, so.
Again, to have all that information together, I think makes some sense.
Is that the consensus agreement?
I agree.
Did anyone feel differently?
Does council have anything to say about that? Not our council, the properties council?
They haven't suggested, I mean, essentially the counsel for 53R is saying that there is no enforcement issue for his client. So
So that could make it short.
there's certainly nothing wrong with keeping them on the same night. So we could revote 51 to be on the same night as 53R, just to keep everything, because you may duplicate some conversation.
I don't think we voted on anything. I think it was just a general, we'll see this on 4/8. Are we in agreement that we'll see them both on 5/13 instead?
Sure.
I missed it. There was no vote on 51?
No, because it's an enforcement update.
Okay.
Yeah, well, that's not bad.
So again, in order to accommodate council, to have the night it'll all be on.
Yeah, I think it probably makes the most sense.
Okay.
I mean, the way council review has been going timing-wise,
Yeah.
I have had initial feedback from them on this, but I need more. And so if that process drags out,
So
and
pushing it out is,
we're not ready on April 22nd anyways, then it would probably be pretty annoying for him to have to come in for that night, and then, I don't know. We don't have to consider things like that, but I think there's nothing wrong with us pushing that to the first meeting in May.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Do we have to make a motion or no?
so, okay, go ahead, Megan.
No, do we have to make a motion?
We don't?
Right?
You don't, I think we typically do, just,
Okay.
there's certain things, I don't know necessarily sometimes whether there's certain things, because we're outside of a public hearing, if you do or don't technically have to vote on
Sounds
continuing
like technically
something,
we
but
don't have to do it, but it doesn't
usually
hurt.
do,
So,
yeah.
do we have a motion, perhaps?
Make a motion to continue both
Both the street.
51 and 53R Main Street to May 13th.
All right, so Megan has put forth a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Marilyn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, we will say 5-0 in favor. Moving to 5/13, both 51 Main Street and 53R Main Street. All right, meeting minutes. Looks like we're going to review February 11th, 2026 meeting minutes.
So I just sent a couple of typos to Georgie.
Okay.
You got them, right? Okay.
Getting pretty close to the present with these minutes.
All right, do we have, let's see, just typos?
Mhm.
Okay. Are you comfortable proving otherwise?
Yes.
Absent was Kalina, so we will perhaps hear a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve February 11th, 2026 meeting.
All right, the motion is by Megan, do we have a second by Dot? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 0, abstained?
Abstain.
Abstained 1 for Kalina. So that, we approved the meeting's minutes for February 11th, 2026. Four zero one.
Just a question, if we think that we may have a quorum issue for April 22nd, should that be discussed right now? I know it's a different issue with like when you have an ongoing filing,
Right.
right, where, you know, you may have an issue with voting. But are you okay with keeping April 22nd open?
I should be here.
Do you have the potential?
Or do we already have something on there? I didn't even check that.
Yeah, did you check?
Yeah, we do actually have, yeah, we have a couple of RCOCs
Mm-hmm.
and an RDA. Never mind. I retract my statement.
So you're good?
I'm good.
All right.
May I ask if there's an update on 44 Rabbit? Because they have a deadline.
Yeah, because they were supposed to be on for tonight, I thought.
They were supposed to?
Their deadline is today, March
Yeah.
25th. We moved it from February 1st
Yeah.
to March 25th.
Okay. I will have an update for the next meeting. They weren't told that they had to be here tonight. They were told.
No, they had a deadline. Our initial February 1st deadline was moved because of weather to today.
Right.
And we had continued it to today.
We did?
That's what I wrote down.
So let me follow up on that. That may be a staff oversight.
Okay.
We'll have a follow-up and an update at the next meeting on that.
Yay.
All right. Should we open it up to the public to see if there's anybody online that had anything they wanted to speak with? Is
I
that,
mean, we don't really have open forum. I have a,
there's somebody,
Yeah.
and we didn't have anything. Okay, all right.
I have a quick update that's not on the agenda for the commission. And I've kind of, I think, already briefed this a little bit, but we put a public hearing notice out for the April 8th meeting for the commission to discuss updating the regulations, KWPR. We've talked about that a lot. We even did a red line years ago that we never kind of followed through with. But since we rewrote the bylaw, talk since then was to make sure that the regs match, take care of any of the nonsense that's in there, or the typos or links that don't connect, but also just discuss if there are any needs in terms of things always evolve, right? And you always have new things that pop up. One of those things is alternative technology septic systems. It doesn't really speak to that anywhere in there. So there's a lot of different things, I think, that can be looked at. My way of just trying to get this done, given that our office doesn't usually have time to dig into something like that, and I don't want to be responsible for making a mistake on something that should be perfect when we're done with it, is to contract it out. So my thought was, start a public hearing. If anybody in the public wants to come discuss it, they're welcome to. We can put up a couple of flyers, places if we want to do that. Otherwise, I'll have information. I gave you all a copy of KWPR tonight. I know you already have it, but I just wanted you to make sure you had a print copy of the most updated one. And you have some notes on some things that I've been tracking that I know are either wrong or things that, you know, we might want to discuss, as well as the standard conditions and some suggestions on standard conditions. I will provide more of this to you in the coming week or so for the commission just to kind of absorb all that before the meeting. Then at the meeting, talk about everything. We'll take notes. We'll come out of that meeting. If you want to continue it a few times, whatever, however long you need until we have marching orders from the commission, which is we're going to fix all the things that don't make sense and we're going to make these changes. And then I will get a contract out for a consultant that I trust, that we already work with on other things, to update that document for us at that. So we'll continue the hearing down the road until the commission can vote on that and approve it at a hearing so that it's done.
She'll
and it's
get the
official.
document back.
Hopefully, going forward, we'll have, you know, the solid bylaw with the solid regulations and no more little tricky things that don't quite make sense. So I think it's a good opportunity just to get that done and not rely on me saying like, hey, I have the time to do this now, because it's probably never going to happen. So
No,
that's my.
it'd be good to get that
that's my thought.
solid.
All right, well, thank you for the update.
Question? Were you also going to bring up about the deadline of submittal of materials tonight? we were going to change it to
Mm-hmm.
We
2
were going
weeks.
to discuss that, and I didn't put it on the agenda, yeah. I talked about wanting to change the information receipt deadline. And similarly to, I talked about the standard conditions. The standard conditions aren't really in KWPR, so I don't know that we need to do that in a public hearing or tie them to KWPR, but I think maybe it gives them more strength if we do. So rather than just my office change it or have the commission randomly vote on a couple of things, I think it makes sense to tie it to that. With information receipt, that may be something we should have also in there. But in the meantime, the commission probably could just vote that. I don't think there's anything wrong with
I think it would be good to vote it, but I agree with you. I think it would be good to have it enshrined, as
Yeah.
it were, in,
We'll put it
The
on the
docs.
next agenda, that's my bad. I brought that up and then didn't
Yeah.
put it on the agenda. Yeah, I think what I was saying was, we have the 3-week for new business, and then we've typically had a 1-week in between, and that doesn't work out terribly well with the 4-day work week.
no, no.
It doesn't give my office the time to get information to you, and it doesn't give you enough time to review the information before the next meeting. So I think, I don't know if we want to change that to 2 weeks, or if it should be something like 10 days. I mean, 2 weeks. 2 weeks basically guarantees that it's a month for every continuance. And the commission always has the ability to waive those things, as would I say my office does in some capacity as well. So if there are things that are really easy lifts that aren't going to require a lot of review, I don't think it's a big deal to make,
Yeah,
a
sometimes-
determination that they can submit it a week in advance, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But in general, for things where there's a lot of information that's being changed,
Right.
we basically have to review it the day we get it and get it to you the same day, which is tough. But that's something I didn't really think about before, is that discussion of like, could it be 10 days instead of 2 weeks? Does that serve the same purpose? It
And would-
basically say that we have to get it the Monday,
Yes.
the week before the meeting, would probably be okay.
I think it would be helpful to make it as specific, because people will say, well, counting 10 days, 10 business days, 10 days.
Right.
If you made it the Monday, that would be definitive?
Yeah, yeah.
I would just say, you're signing yourself up for this. I mean, because the commission can continue anything that we want at any point during the discussion
Yeah.
if we didn't have time to review, and that's what we've been doing for a long time. So it doesn't really do anything but put the kind of the onus on you for a 2-day turnaround, essentially, right?
I mean, as long as they get it to us by Monday, end of day, then we have all day Tuesday, all day Wednesday, all day Thursday to review those materials and get them to the commission.
Oh, I thought you were pushing it further back and just calling it that.
No, I'm saying, so like, let's say, today's the 25th. Our last meeting was on the 11th. So typically it's 1 week, so that's the 18th. If we made it 2 weeks, they'd have to get it on the 25th, but they wouldn't be able to get on until the April 8th meeting. If we made it, what would that be? No, I mean, yeah, you're right. It doesn't work on a typical week. It would have to be 2.
Well, you have until next meeting to think about it.
Simple things can always be adjusted, I think. And so a 2-week normal deadline is as stringent as I think we need to be, if he has a little bit of wiggle room to say, it's fine, I
Sure.
can still get it in.
It would be like a 9-day.
And as long as we get it a
If we
week
did the
before,
Right.
we don't care. Well, I don't care, but I do want time.
I want time
review.
to absorb it, to
Yeah.
review it.
The day of is never the thing, so.
Yeah, as the thing, it could work as let's say a 9-day where they have to get it to me by the Monday, but I don't know. 2 weeks is better. And like you said, if you have the
Yeah.
ability anyways, which you do, to say, okay, we'll accept this in certain situations. I
Right.
think there's nothing wrong
I
with
mean,
that.
we can, if it's just a correction of
Right, or
a
once
setback
a month.
line or something, just a bad number, that's a one and done, so.
Yeah. Yeah, all right, we'll put that on the next agenda. And thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other items we want to discuss? All right, then we'll do closing remarks. The next meeting will be held April 8th, 2026, starting at 6:30 PM. The time is now 7:15. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Make that motion.
Megan, do I hear a second by Dot? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Hearing none, motion is, to adjourn is successful.